For the latest top tips, reviews and advice, please subscribe below.
Hello and welcome to Outdoors Camping and Leisure with me, Mike. Today I'm giving you guys a bit of a video on how to measure your motorhome or your campervan for a driveway or fixed awning. So it's something that we get asked an awful lot, and there's quite a few little tricky little parts to it. So I thought I'd give you a bit more of a kind of a step-by-step how-to video on what measurements you need and what sort of things also to look out for, because there are a few sort of red herrings that really can affect what happens with looking like fixed or driveway motorhome awnings. So probably most common way of what I'm going to look to show you now is merely down to the fact that when you've got a wind-up awning like this, is how you're going to attach it onto. Also, you can wind it out and put like a fixing kit onto it, which you can check on sort of multiple ways to attach driveway awnings onto the market. But really the main measurements we need to look at for sort of fixed or sort of driveway awnings are necessarily the height is the most crucial thing, whether it be a campervan like a T5, T6, something smaller, or something a bit taller like this. The height is most important to know what model will fit your vehicle. So, for example, what I'm going to do now is measure the height from sort of the awning rail here down to the ground, and that'll dictate what maybe size I go for, whether it may be like a low, standard, tall, or SL, XL, and so on and so forth, depending on what awning you're looking at. So the first thing I want to do is bear in mind you need to take two measurements, one from the front of the awning and then one from the back of the awning. Reason being is because where the engine slopes normally, it normally sort of tilts slightly towards the front. So you always find the front measurement tends to be a bit lower. Now that can be very important if you find yourself on a threshold between two different sizes, and then it also kind of changes there. So what I'll do is I'll quickly measure this up and then sort of see what you think. So, like I said, the first most point is we do the front. This is normally the lowest point. So I'm going to basically measure the bottom of the awning rail, because that's where I'm going to feed it into, which we're looking at 248 centimetres. So guarantee we go to the back. .253. So yeah, you've got a six centimetre gap between, and that's a perfect example actually, because that is on the cusp of whether it's best to go for, whether it's a fixed awning, for example. In the camper range, you've got something like an L and S sizes. So the S is 235 to 250. So technically that is kind of on the borderline. Now, with those particular awnings, it does actually kind of have, if you're on the border like this, I would probably recommend an L model for this, which is 250 to 265. The fixed motorhome awnings normally fit better the lower you are to the bottom of the bracket, because it just tends to fit nicer on the ground. And yet again, when you also take its measurements, it's also worth bearing in mind whether you're going to use any levelling blocks on the front or rear to keep that, to get the whole main body sort of on the same level, because it also can help when you're draining things like your sink. It can play with things like that as well. So, but yeah, so 247, 253, I think really an L would be the better model. The other thing to consider as well is how long that length is, because there are, yet again, that will dictate what kind of awning you can go for. If it's a driveway, normally not many people do driveway awnings over 3 meters long, so you can happily fit a driveway in here, no problem at all. It's when you're looking at the fixed motorhome awnings that it can sort of really throw a spanner into the works. So what I'm now going to do is just measure pretty much the length of the rail and see what we got to play with. So if we measure from, this is where it gets a bit trickier. Second pair of hands never goes amiss. Wedge it underneath there. So that is 394. So 394 centimetres. So when it comes to sort of fixed motorhome awnings, that means I could go, I might be able to fit a Rally 390 on there. Motor Rally 390, but it also depends on other factors as well. So, for example, those three main measurements, up to down at the front, up to down at the bottom, and then the overall width will dictate what sort of driveway awning you can go for as well. One thing to really make sure you have a look at is the position of the door. Luckily, on this particular model, the door's bang in the middle. The joist just means that if I want to obviously open the door or have the awning coming out, it's not going to be halfway over the door, it's going to cover the door completely. A lot of the one when you find you've got a front entry for the habitational part door, a lot of the time you find the awning doesn't actually sit all the way over the front door. Then straight away, the problem is you can't really use the wind out awning because you either have it to the right, so you have to open the door, then go into the awning, or what you most likely will do is forget about the wind out awning at the top, it's just use straps to throw over the top as well. But with all this sort of complicated stuff, it's probably best sometimes just to contact us directly at Atwells or bring your vehicle in, and I'm happy to measure it for you and make sure you walk away with the right thing. 'Cause there's nothing worse than buying something that is not going to fit your vehicle at all. And it can, like I said, be a bit of a complicated situation. So that's why it's probably best to speak to the experts on that. Other considerations to think about as well is not only the position of the door, but it's the amount of sort of clearance you've got from the bottom of the awning to the door itself. Because yet again, what you find is as soon as you've got anything like a fixed awning or a driveway, that material is going to slope out straight away. So what you might find is you might not have enough clearance to physically open the door. So that also needs, yet again, another thing you kind of need to measure or sort of get our advice on how much sort of you need to go to. There are other things as well to certainly have a look at, certainly when it comes to fixed awnings. When you've got a fixed motorhome awning like this as well, yet again, the door can also play havoc depending on the clearance. So it depends on how much clearance you've got here, but also the position. Because normally the fixed awnings, for example, the beams rest underneath this awning here. So you need sufficient clearance, I'd say probably about 5 or 6 centimetres at least. Well, if you say 10 to be sure. So the beam can sit underneath here and then not obviously open or shut the door. So all these sort of things, like I said, really it's best if you measure that across, so up, down and across, 3 step measurements, and then contact us. We can probably advise what would be the better one for you. But in essence, that is a bit of kind of an intro guide to how to measure, whether it be, like I said, a motorhome or a camper van. And yet again, if you need any more help on this particular query, contact us at Atwells either via email, which is camping@atwells.co.uk, or by our phone number, which is 01452 742 233, and we'll be able to help you out there.